Hey there, my friend. This is Dr. Anthony Balduzzi, and I want to welcome you back to another episode here on the Fit Mother Project podcast. In just a moment, you're about to hear a powerful and inspiring conversation between myself and one of our Fit Mother program members, Eve Found. Eve is 58 years young, and she's been on an incredible journey using this Fit Mother program, initially to improve her health parameters. She went to the doctor and found that she was going to need to be put on a third blood pressure medication. And her parents have a history of having health issues. And she saw the trajectory her life was heading. And she decided enough was enough. I'm going to try to find a way to fix this. And she stumbled upon our Fit Mother YouTube channel. And she had a background in strength training and even powerlifting, as you're going to hear. And she liked what she saw. She ends up joining the program. And boy, was she in for a treat. Over the course of the last few phases, she's gone through FM30X phase 1, 2, and 3. Eve's dropped close to 20 pounds. She's so much stronger. She's more consistent. Her menopause symptoms have improved in many different parameters. And she just feels so much better and happier and on track with the sustainable plan she can actually stick to. So this is a powerful conversation where we touch on the mental, the physical, the emotional aspects, and how important it is to track and journal your progress along the way, and how to stay consistent, especially when you're getting older and you may have a history of injuries and stuff like that. Eve's had it all, and she shares a lot of great wisdom. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode with Fit Mother, Eve Found. All right, Eve, welcome officially to the Fit Mother Project podcast, my friend. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Been looking forward to it all month.
Yeah, me too. And I'd love to kick this off by you introducing yourself to all the ladies listening, your name, your age, where you're from, and anything you'd like to share about your work and family. Okay,
great. I'm Eve Found. I am 58, and I have been married for 35 years. I have 3 grown children. 2 of them have children, so yay, I'm a grandma.
Yeah, grandma.
I love that is the best
fit grandma.
Yeah, trying to be more fit. That's right. I love it. Grandma's the best job I have. I have a military background. That was actually how I cut my teeth in the working world. I went through West Point. I did some activities. So one thing that actually drew me to the fit, I'm trying not to get ahead of myself, but what drew me actually to your podcast was that I have a lifting background. I was a power lifter in college.
Seriously?
And absolutely. And so I noticed that you had fantastic form. And I said, a lot of times these folks on YouTube, they're just kind of wonky to get out there. But that was one thing I just noticed immediately, that you and your knowledge, you were a doctor. There was just so many pluses, but that was one thing that drew me to you. And so anyway, my lifting background, I also I did about 5 or 6 things in college. I threw the 20-pound hammer for a bit. I ran track. It's required. I was at a military college. It's required. But anyway, I think I did soccer too for a little bit, but I just did a lot of things, and I did powerlifting for about 3.5 years, and I think I ran track for 3.5 years as well. So that's a little bit about me. So that's how I got started. And then I also have about 26 plus years in the nonprofit world. I'm currently working for a nonprofit. I'm the chief financial officer for an educational nonprofit here in North Carolina. And I also have a little bit of financial background, but most of my, I would say throughout my now 40-year work history, just about every job I've had has had something to do with admin and logistics. So that's my long suit, and that's me. I love being a grandma, wife, and mother. And I love it that I'm more fit.
That's awesome.
For sure.
What a way to kick this off. I mean, it's like, that's a really nice, fun summary of some highlights of your life. And I think it's super admirable. And I have so much respect for, I don't know, just seems like you've done a lot, like whether it's your career, your interests, your family life. And now you're kind of here in this, like we call it like a back half chapter now, working on your health and your fitness, still contributing big time in the workforce with your family. And how specifically did you find the Fit Mother Project? Was it on YouTube videos or something like that?
It was on YouTube, and it's been about 2 years ago now, because I started in April of last year. And I know it had been about a year, maybe a little bit over a year before I found you. And I was looking for, honestly, because of my military, I have to say it this way, because of my military background, I'm used to working out with men. Mm-hmm. And I actually prefer working out with men. They have a different kind of they have a different flow. Mm-hmm. And so I was used to that because that's what I did on the powerlifting team. And so when I saw you, I thought that was different because your focus, you were a man, but your focus was on women, at least because I didn't know about the Fit Father Project at the time. So I said, wow, that's kind of different. I said, he's a medical doctor, and a real doctor, not like Dr. Pepper. So I was glad about that. That made me smile. I said, hey, wait a minute. So I can, it makes me, receive the information, from you easier. I said, because he's had training. So anyway, I thought about I looked at that, and again, your form and everything. So that drew me to the podcast. And I also, not your podcast, I should say the channel. And so when I started checking it out, I was like, oh, there's a whole lot in here. And so I started, little bits, a little bit of time. I started with one, and I liked whatever video. I can't remember exactly what I started with, but whatever it was, I was very impressed with just the way that you talk to your listeners and not down. You didn't have a condescending tone, because sometimes you hear people and they'll say, you need to stop being lazy. And it's more like there's a put down at first, get up, but you were just saying, you kind of just meet us right where we are. You're talking about mothers. We know your schedule is busy. And, something about you just acknowledging that there are reasons for that we get in a certain way. Because nobody, I don't think anyone starts out saying, hey, I really want to be really unfit and unhealthy. Sure. That's my goal. Nobody starts that way. But in just real life, as you're caring for a family, I know that I would say by and large, at least the mothers that I've come in contact with, most of the time mothers just tend to put themselves last. Not always, but there is a tendency to say, okay, I will get around to me, got to get the kids, got to get everybody. And I know I'm one of those mothers that if my house is not the way I want it, I can't focus on myself. I want things in a particular order. I want everything in order, which is really, really hard to do with 3 children. So, but you do what you can, and that's what I did. So, and I think that's what a lot of women
I completely agree. And so you probably enjoyed the organization of the program itself, because that probably spoke to you in terms of how you think and how you like things presented, I imagine.
Exactly. And I'm sure that's from my military back. In the military, of course, everything has structure. And I found out that what I needed, because one of the things I had tried previously was intermittent fasting. And intermittent fasting is great because it's incorporated into your program. But I discovered that I needed more structure. And I found out, and one thing about the military with me while I was in the military, I think I thrived in the military when I was in it, is because there is a lot of structure. You don't have to guess. Yeah. I don't like guessing. I like knowing. What am I supposed to do now? And in this program, and that was one thing that impressed me about your videos, by the way, your pacing, you did the extra. I watched how the time, you didn't do reps super fast. You didn't do a lot of jumping around. Your form was excellent. You told about rest. You said you got to rest this much. And I was like, wow, I was like, wait a minute, it's like a coach. He's telling us exactly. And so I found that was extremely helpful for me. For some folks, maybe they like to just, maybe be more freewheeling, but I personally benefit from structure. It was everything about this program. Even there's a lot of information. I know the first go around, because I reset. I actually missed a lot of it, because not a lot of it, but more so that I just didn't take advantage of as much. And I think because I was having to focus so much of my energy on consistency, and I think it just absorbed everything else. So I was just like, let me just get this in, So I just did what I could there. But
I want to pause there, because I think that's actually a really important point that hasn't been brought up as explicitly. It's like when we're on these health and fitness journeys, there's like different focus points regarding like how far we are along. In the beginning, you're right. The energy is about becoming more consistent with eating, becoming more consistent with exercise. Then as you go further on, you become like a sponge once you have some momentum, where you can like actually absorb and understand some of the deeper frameworks and strategies and the why behind certain things. And then I think that's just like part of the architecture of transformation, because then once you understand the why, then it's more motivating and you're a little more solid. So it's cool to hear. I'd like to fast forward a little bit and kind of like frame this in. Talk about the how of your journey, like how it was going through the phases. But first off, like what has changed in your life in the couple years since you've been around Fit Mother Project and like made the changes? What's changed physically, mentally, emotionally? Give us like a snapshot and a high level overview of some of the transformations you've experienced.
I would think that the most significant, apart from the weight, which is great, fantastic, yay, because that was part of my focus. But my goal in starting this program was to get off of blood pressure medication. It is on my both my parents have high blood pressure. Their parents had, so it's a lot of that. I don't know if it's necessarily hereditary, but I do know that if you copy what people do, I do know that if you follow someone's example, you may get their same results. And so if you become sedentary and eat the same foods that you did when you were young, and your body was, metabolizing food at a different rate, you can't. I discovered you can't do that and still get the same, then get the same results. So I got to the point, March 29th, I will tell you, I know the exact date, March 29th, 2022, I had a blood pressure checkup. And at this blood pressure checkup, my doctor said, hey, we're going to need to start you on a third medication. I said, I'm not going to take it. I said, I won't do it. I won't do it. I said, give me a minute to get myself together. I said, if you need me to come back in 30 days or something, I said, I will not take 3 medications. I said, I will not do it. I already hate taking medicine in the first place. And I said, just give me a minute. I said, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do, but just give me a minute. 5 days later, maybe 6 at the time, because I guess March has 31 days, but April the 4th, at any rate, April 4th, 2022, I started this program. And I have the pictures. And I just, when I look at those pictures now, I just look swollen, but I remember how I felt. I felt out of control. My body I just felt like I was swelling uncontrollably. I'm having a lot of the menopause things. I had a hysterectomy back in 2016. My body just started doing lots of different things then. And I really honestly felt like I could not control my body. And at the time, I thought I was doing intermittent fasting pretty well. I said, clearly this is not working. And so I had done all of the things. I've done CrossFit. I've done a membership in CrossFit. It worked to an extent, but my joints were so sore. I'm 58, so I've had lots of injuries. I've in the military. I have some very specific injuries that you just don't get unless you're in the military. If you've jumped out of a plane lately, let me know. But I have some injuries that are related to jumping out of a plane. So it's just a lot. Certain things just, I had a degree of success, but not consistently. Yeah. And that was the thing. What my husband has said to me about since I've been on this program, I was struggling one day. I was a little frustrated. I kind of hit one of those plateaus, and I was like, man, I'm taking the notes, I'm doing the things. And I said, I'm not moving. He said, but you're keeping the weight off. And I was like, whoa, he's noticed, so that to me was significant because this is probably apart from my time in the military. So I started 1982 to 1991, that's basically mandatory. You got to run, the Army runs everywhere. That's what I was in the Army. And so that's mandated. So you gotta stay in shape, or if you get, if not, they will discharge you. So stay in shape. But I would say since then, since having my since having my last child in 2000, I'm sure this is the longest that I have maintained my weight. That's come off. I'm sure. There's no contest. And again, it's the structure that has helped me. But that was the marker. Is that doctor visit really changed. It was a line in this. It literally was a line in saying, I said, no, I cannot go any further like this. And so I knew I had to do something. And I just thought about, I know this is a long winding answer, but I thought about what had gotten me to that point. I said, okay, I've had children, and I was like, I'm trying to do this, trying to do that. And I thought about one thing I discovered as I was deciding to start this program is that I realized that the word should was a snag point for me. I kept this whole time, I kept telling myself, you should be able to do this. You should be. And I kept going back, in college you were able to. Yeah, I was 25. I mean, it was a long time ago. And so your body will not perform, I don't know why, but it's just amazing how you can get tripped up with life in itself. Just getting through life can just, so some kind of way all this minutia can get in there and keep you from thinking clearly. And I clearly was not. How did I think that at 58, I was going to do the same thing as I was doing at 8?
Right.
I don't know. But that word kept coming up. And I was like, I should be able to do better. I should be able to do this. And I should. And should wasn't working. I can tell you that. Should got me to the point where I was going to be on 3 medications. And also I was like, at one point, financially, I would say things were more challenging and you can't really afford to buy things. And I was like, well, I kind of realized you've exhausted all of the free methods. Might be time to invest something, especially in you. It's just going to help you. You're going to be the beneficiary. So that's how I decided. I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and do this because free's not working. Intermittent, I was doing that and it wasn't working. And I said, well, free has gotten me to the point where I need more medication. And I also, this will be my last point. I also saw that I was actually going down the same path as my parents. I love my parents and they're still around. They're 79. They're both living great and everything, but they're heavily medicated. They take medicines for lots of things. And that's not what I want. But I realized that I was still heading in that direction unless I do something different.
Yeah. This is powerful. There's a lot of factors, right? I mean, that fateful doctor visit, you drawing the line in the sand, reflection on that guilt of carrying the should and the mindset, and like a lot of things coming together. And I think even the fact that someone invests in this program, like you spend the money that it is, obviously it's not breaking the bank, but just putting the money down is saying, this is important enough for me that I'm going to give this a formal shot. And sometimes that even puts you in the mindset of a beginner's mindset again. Like, I'm going to be willing to just like read whatever this is, follow some instructions, and then you start to get some traction. It's fascinating. It sounds like that's been your experience.
Exactly. And it was amazing. When you're uncomfortable, I discovered that when I'm uncomfortable, I shouldn't say you, I'm going to say me. When I'm uncomfortable, I'll say, Eve, this will help. So here you got this guideline. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to do that. I'm going to tell you one thing I really didn't want to do. I really didn't want to do the accountability thing. I was like, come on. I was like, I can't. But that was one of the most helpful things I had. I was so surprised by that. I'm not sure what it is about just that daily check-in, but I guess it has to do with the
refocusing the mind,
the content, refocusing, and also the connection. And I mean, the responses were immediate and they were helpful. It wasn't just like a cookie cutter. It wasn't like just an email, a standard. They responded, the responses that Amy gave me to what I was actually going through was very helpful. I just didn't know that I needed some encouragement. I needed someone to say, okay, yeah, well, this is how you evaluate this and now let's go on. And I didn't know that I needed that. Typically in the military, they just say, shut up and push. Yeah. Okay. They just, if you're sucking, hey, just keep it moving. But I found that it was extremely helpful to have that. And I don't know, I can't think of any other program that I've ever, come across, that has that as a component. That's what you need to, we have accountability coach here for you to do that because, I don't know, it just makes it easier for you it made it easy for me to focus, when I knew that I had someone to ask a question to, because sometimes I didn't necessarily sometimes I send in questions and I'm not really, I don't do Facebook a whole lot. I look at Facebook for pictures of my grandkids, to be honest with you. Okay, that's all I do. Okay, that's the only reason I get on Facebook. Okay, but I do read, because there was every now and then someone wrote something, and sometimes the ladies, they were saying something, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's me. That's exactly me. I'm right there, and it was motivating in a way that I hadn't anticipated. So, just all the benefits of doing something new. And I would say, and committing to it. So,
that's good. Let's talk a little bit about your life and your routine. I want to know, especially as you're going through, phase 1 through 3, and I know you had to restart a phase 1 at some point. Yeah. That's 6 months of structured program there. And I know it's been longer for you. What is your routine kind of evolved into? Like, and let's talk nutrition first. Like, what does a kind of day in your life look like in terms of what's consistent for you, whether it's intermittent fasting, what do you have in the morning? How do you do your hydration? How do you manage dinners? Being a busy mom and working and grandma and all these things, like, what's the routine that works for you more or less?
Well, what's working now? And I reset because I said, I'm not quite where I want to be. And actually, I think for me, probably the reset would have come anyway, because it made me realize going through that about 6 months made me realize that I actually could go further because I'm gonna tell you, I was kind of at a low point, and I just didn't think that I could achieve but so much, and because I have struggled basically all my life with my weight. But anyway, my routine. I will do the meals. I'll kind of break it down in sections. So my meals now, and that food, your recipe guide is even though I don't use a lot of the recipes, what helped me structure standardizing my breakfast. Something about that, I use one of the vegetarian breakfasts, and I love meat, but this vegetarian breakfast, it's oats. It's the rolled oats with the chia seeds, hemp seeds, the almond milk, and the peanut butter. I don't know I don't know what about that, but that is nearly magical for me. I eat it every day. I would say I eat it 5 to 6 days out of 7. So I do that. I have a salad with protein for meal number 2, and meal number 3 is going to be a perfect plate. And I actually just got to the point where I could actually, what's that? The low carb days where you just replace it. I'm actually trying to make every day a low carb day for that. And I've actually gotten to the point where that's, where it's easier to do for me instead of, having to focus on that. So that's a typical day. And what I do is I get up at 6:30 because my foundational to everything, all of this, is my faith in God. So I start out I make sure I have time at the beginning of each day. I find it works better for me at the beginning. That's just way because I have a 9 to 5 job. So it works better for me. I want to do it before. So I have some study time. And I also, because I am on blood pressure medication, I take my blood pressure in the morning. And then I do the stretches. There's some stretches that you recommended, hip stretches. And that really keyed my focus because, I remember back in, Jack LaLanne.
Of course.
Jack LaLanne. And he would do those kinds of things. And a lot of things, just standard, typical things. But hip circles help me because I have some issues with my back. And then those knee circles. So that's a part of my everyday routine. I'm trying to think, if I include those 2 stretches, there are 10 stretches that I do in the morning. So I find that it helps. You said to do that. You said we need to stretch before we work out. So it just works. I have some stretches that I do because of accidents, injuries, as well as accidents. So I do those, and flat feet as well. So I have to do some stretches for that. Just life, just trying to live, Dr. A, just trying to make it. So do those things. We do those things. So I do that. I exercise in the morning. I have experimented with exercising at night, not so much. So I exercise. I do. I have a time of self-reflection and study in the morning. I stretch, and I exercise, shower, and then get on my day. And then I just do that. And I drink the water. With respect to the water, I use the schedule that you said. You said drink 2. I try to stick to that. I don't always, I kind of waffle, but that's what my aim, my focus is always to drink 2 bottles of water immediately, and then drink 2 more bottles before 10:30, and then just the way and then drink 2 more bottles before, try to get 6 bottles. I try to use that. That's the standard for me. I tried to do that. And I discovered I am drinking about, I would say 8 to 9 bottles, 16.9 ounce bottles, by the way. So I drink I know I'm drinking at least a gallon a day, which is definitely helpful. But that was kind of tricky. It wasn't the hardest thing, but using your schedule, because I remember one time I was like, man, I'm trying to get this water in. I realized I was hitting a snag, and I was like, why don't you follow what they said in this program that you paid for? So anyway, some things like that, we have to take you have to. It's amazing how your body kind of fights change, and it'll just do your mind will fight change or whatever. And you have to just decide, wait a minute now, I just go back to, okay, what did they say do? And so that's what I did. When I kind of when I get off course, I just go back to, well, what am I supposed to be doing? And you actually, I want to say it was, I don't know if it was day 17 because I'm on the reset, whichever day it was, 16, 17, something like that. You were talking about how to just, hey, let's just recenter and refocus. And you were saying where the biggest deal is, getting this your meal prep and your meal routine, get that right. Get some exercises in and get your rest. He said, that's really this program. You were talking about that's the core of the I think I got it right. You were talking about that's the core of the program. He said, everything else is kind of not window dressing, but everything else is extra. But this is but this is foundational. Right. You've got to do these things. And so that's what I've been trying to do, is just to really, really have a solid foundation, because I am at the point where the weight is harder to come up. And I've never lost weight easily. I'm not surprised that it's different, but it's kind of like, it's like been shaved off. I was thinking it didn't just drop off me. Some folks, I was excited for them. It was actually encouraging to hear that some folks had just dropped weight. So, I mean, I was like, well, this is crazy. And I'm going to tell you, I love this program because I think some of the first stories that I read were about folks who were older than me. And I was like, wait a minute, that got my attention. I mean, immediately. I was like, wait a minute, what? I was like, 60 what? 70 what? Yeah. And so anyway, that just was, that was eye-opening, and it was extremely encouraging to read someone older, not just the same age, but older, was, having this degree of success. And when you look at those pictures, even when it doesn't have to be a lot of pictures, but you see the before, when folks are just, willing to share, which I find just amazing, that ladies are like, okay, this is what I looked like at the beginning. And and it's amazing. It is so helpful to see progress, because sometimes you need something to focus on, besides the struggle that you're having. And that's been extremely helpful. So I hope that was, I got my, that's my meal and everything. Like, that's what I do.
Yeah, it's great. And I think just some underlying themes I want to pull out and emphasize is the program gives you the structure, but ultimately you're experimenting. And I'll say the dojo of your own life. You try some things, you learn some stuff, you make some personal realizations. If you feel like you're drifting off track, you come back to center on like the core thing, and you keep on working it. And then the power of just doing this alongside other people and getting out of your own head, seeing the bigger picture, getting more faith that this does work by seeing other people go through it. It's like, it's hitting on a lot of different key aspects. And so I want to ask you, when it comes to exercise, you've done a lot of different kinds of workouts through Fit Mother, and probably different than powerlifting, right? We have a slightly different style of workouts. Let's talk about what it's been like doing the training, what you've learned, how much stronger you've gotten, any other gains or things you've overcome on the exercise front.
I would say that I like the lifting exercises the best. I do not. I've never liked cardio. I hate running. And of course, for 9 years of my life, that was my entire job, was to run in the Army. I never liked running. But actually my favorite exercise of all, the whole time, was the Triple Crown. I just love it. Something about that combination of exercises, the 4, 3, 2, I don't know what it was, but I think after those workouts, I felt the strongest. I felt the best. I was the most energized and pumped. I don't know. Nice. But anyway, maybe it's because I do like deads. I like that. That was one of my favorite exercises easily. And I do like the swings, but I did discover that my body, I'm not sure what it is. I said, maybe it's just my elbows. I'd had some tendonitis. And so I just had to kind of start over. But what I did was during this reset, I have been making a point to read everything that you come. So, and in so doing, I ran across something where you were saying, I said, well, if you're having issues, with modify, and if you can't do the modification, you said, just do HIIT every day. And I was like, how did I miss this the first time around? So I've been doing HIIT for the last 2.5 weeks every day. And I was like, wow, I'm making more gains now than I did before, but I'm allowing these elbows to rest because I was having swelling in my joint. I mean, pronounced swelling that you can see. And so I said, one key thing that you tell us repeatedly, if it's hurting, don't do it if it hurts. Why you would have to tell the person, but I'm kind of hard-headed. So anyway, it's like, no, I should. Should will mess you up. I should be. Nope. And so anyway, stop doing that. But the exercises that I like the most, even the Apex 10, the first time that I did it, and I'm thankful for my lifting background because I loved how you tell, this is how long it should take you. That's what was missing in a lot of other things. It's like, well, how long, if I do all this, what is a good marker for me to know that I am at least, you need some sort of benchmark. And so you say, okay, well, it might take you an hour. And it took me 45 minutes. I was excited about that. That actually made me feel better. Even though I'm right at the beginning, that was the first week. And I was like, I haven't lost any weight, but I did complete this workout in a less time, than, the benchmark time. And that really was a motivating factor for me. And I know it's just because of weight. So anyway, because I know how to go from, one thing I love about your weight videos, you talk us through it, every part, and you show, there's a transition. You show how to go from one weight, and you also tell us, make sure you may need different weights. That's very, very important, especially if you've never lifted before. And so all of that was just really helpful. But that was really one of the things, that was the first week. One of the things that was a high point for me was that I was able to get through that workout in less time. I said, well, I'm out. And it just gave me a boost to know that. But all the lifting workouts are good. There's certain ones that I like more than others. But the Triple Crown is my favorite. I'm trying to think of the name of the other one, but the Apex 10 is actually okay. I actually kind of like it. I didn't like it the first time. I thought I was.
Oh, for sure. And then it becomes like the old classic that you look back on. Yeah,
exactly. Mm-hmm. The Apex 11, a little harder. I said, oh, there's more exercises in this. I said, but anyway, but of course, if you want to build, you gotta, you have to challenge yourself more. But again, Triple Crown is my absolute favorite workout. I think
something you said that was really important is, especially when you're starting out, weight is something we all want to see change. That's why we join programs like this. And that's good to track that for sure, because it gives you, the sense if you're progressing, but also paying attention from day one to anything that's a success and a win that you can build off of. Got my meals in on time, check. Got the workout in this number of times per week or under allotted time, check. And like in the beginning, when you don't have a lot of confidence and you're starting out, you need to like have these mental hooks to start to build on little blocks of your success and your confidence. That's right. So training the mind to pay attention to those is very good. And maybe even doing intentional journaling or reflection. I'm curious, did you do any of that? Would you write down your thoughts and feelings at a certain point, log certain things? Was that a part of your progress?
Absolutely. I started using with you. I would tell you this is my journey. So my journey was, I started with what you have, because you supplied us a journal, and you gave, I love all of the information that came with it. And then what I did was, I had been using something daily myself. And so I kind of created my own like 2-page version. But I found that it was not as effective. I did use it, but I went back and went on this reset. I said, let me just try to do it just exactly the way they present it. And so I would say every day I've been using that. And I definitely find it helpful. It just helps with focus for me. And because if I can keep my focus, then that helps me in my consistency. And so I would focus on making sure that I do this. So I plan the night before, I set it up for my way in all of that. And my goals for the next day, what do I want to do? I said, well, I think about what I didn't actually do. Like, for instance, I got the water in, but I got it in kind of late, and I ended up going to the bathroom. And so let's get that water in earlier your next day. So I kind of, modify it like that. But that's what I've been doing. But the journaling, for sure, for me, it has been extremely helpful. And I do love I do like the format that you have given us. I like to write anyway. And I find it helpful to just jot down, like, different things that happen. It's like, well, high energy today. Or if I had, I'm sorry about this, guys. I hope this doesn't bother, but I'm always talking about my bowels. Okay. I've had 4 abdominal surgeries, and
the hysterectomy being one
bowels.
of them,
that was the last one, but I've had invasive surgeries. And so, I'm happy when I just focus a lot on that. And so anytime I have like good BMs is something that's a high point for me. Because I kind of had to, it was the first abdominal, I had to have my gallbladder removed a long time ago, 1988. So that's before laparoscopic surgery.
Wow.
So I had a big
that was,
scar.
right.
Yeah, exactly. And so I had to kind of refigure out after each consecutive stomach surgery, with the exception of one, I kind of had to refigure out those nerves and endings. You got to refigure out, hey, how do I do this now? So whenever I have good days and everything is flowing the way, I'm excited about that. Because it can be.
And that's also a leading indicator too, I think, in some sense, that your nutrition is going well, that you're eating the right kinds of things, that you're sleeping well, you're hydrating well. It's a good thing for everyone to pay more attention to bowel movements. And like, especially if you've had any kind of health history with that, like you have, where you need to be super dialed in. But like, no one feels good when your GI tract's off, whether you're constipated, bloated, diarrhea, like it's like the basis for feeling good, is having good digestive health.
Exactly. And what I've discovered is as I have incorporated, as I'm drinking the water, the way you say, as I'm doing the meal prep and the meal planning and eating the way you say, what I've discovered is that my skin has improved. My husband even said it. He said, your skin is softer. I said, what? He said, your skin is softer. And I was like, My husband doesn't really make a whole lot of comments.
Yeah, so he must be really noticing something. Like this is like, for him to notice that, that's supposed to be a real thing.
That's just not something he's not just normally making those kind of comments. I was like, okay, something's going on.
Probably more hydrated is what it comes down to, right? I mean, hydrated with their
I definitely am drinking more water. I'm trying to definitely make 8 like the baseline, 8 16.9 ounce bottles. I just find that works for me. What I tend to do in order to keep the schedule, the drinking schedule that you recommend, I drink half a bottle at a time. I don't sip I just drink half the bottle at a time.
It's a good idea.
And then I drink another half.
Just drink it in big gulps, because otherwise it can be laborious to like just continue to do small sips. And sometimes if your stomach's empty, just slam it, you know?
Exactly. And I don't necessarily, the fasting days, what I did was I did what you said, which is, if you're feeling hungry, just, drink some water, which I did. Headache, drink some water. I was like, I got to feeling, and that's one of the things that I've learned as I've gone through this program is, the things, the tips that you've been providing, they're 100% accurate. And I was sitting, they asked me, why is my head hurting? And I looked and I said, when is the last time you drank some water? I think it had been maybe 2 hours since I had something to drink. And I drank some water and I was like, and when a couple minutes it went away, I was like, oh my God, you gotta, just learning how your body actually works. Yeah. So I'm just happy that my skin is clearer. That's because nice. As I was, before this program, what I was doing was, which a lot of people do, I was a wishing and a hoping that things would be better, but if you eat poorly, and when I discovered there was, actually, the more I followed this program, the more I was able to isolate the things that were problematic for me. So one thing I identified was white flour. White flour is really, really problematic in my digestive tract, really is. And so I try to not eat, if I can help it, I try not to eat anything with white flour in it. It really just locks me up. And so I try to just leave that alone. But I just have been amazed at how clear my skin has stayed, because like sweets is my, that's my Achilles heel. I'm just going to say, I get it from and bread. Good God. Don't I love bread? But I discovered, I was thinking if you had asked me before this program, what really was my number one trigger, I would have said sweets, but it's not, it's bread. Because the more structured I got this, when I remember somewhere along the first week and a half, and I'm, doing what you said do, I was like, man, I would just about kill for some sourdough bread right about now. Oh my God. But it's much easier now to but again, I learned that as well. That was helpful to know. I was like, that's a trigger. So I have learned to stay away from certain triggers. Chocolate is a trigger. And also it all causes me to break out. I can tell exactly if I've missed something, because I'm going to have some evidence. You're like, I gotta, just drink some bunch of water, exercise, get this mess out. I also discovered with respect to, and probably a lot of ladies have noticed this who are in the menopause phase of their life. The less carbs that I have on board from like the bad stuff, the sweets and all that kind of stuff. For some reason, it's a little bit easier on my system because I'm still having hot flashes and everything, but they are much diminished. And I discovered that as my diet and my rest, I must say that, and my rest, because I did struggle with getting proper rest, because I don't sleep all that well sometimes, just a week. But the better the diet, the less, I would say, the less frequency I was having with the hot flashes, because I was having hot flashes a lot, but they're much diminished. But I have them, but they are regular now. If I wake up, as soon as I wake up, I was like, make Eve hot. It's time to make Eve hot. She's waking up. Just make her hot for some reason. So anyway, as soon as I shower and get dry, make her hot again. But it come, but for some reason, right about the time I go to work, they kind of subside until I begin to relax again. At least that's what I've noticed. But before that, I would have them all throughout the day. And I would have them, oh gosh, I might wake up, I don't know, let's say 4 to 8 times a night.
Wow.
Because they wake me up. And they just wake you up like, good morning, hey, just wake up for no reason. Just wake up, be hot, now be cold. And so, and a lot of that was, I was like, man, when I was telling you at the beginning that I felt like I was out of control, I just felt like I was swelling out of control. That feeling of out of controlness. I forget, I don't know whereabouts, but maybe let's say along 2 months or so in, I felt it was almost like I realized that a switch had been flipped, and it was like it was in the up position and now it's in the down position. Now I don't feel that way anymore. I haven't, achieved everything yet, but I don't feel that way anymore. I felt my body was like, okay, let's get, and I began to look forward to the structure. I look forward to breakfast. I know because that breakfast, something about that oats, the rolled oats, just does me good. And I want to say medically, I get a physical every year, and the last physical that I had, I want to say something like my cholesterol went down like 49 points in one area and 51 in another. And so the doctor was like, well, what are you doing? Because I know that medical folks, they'll ask you what's going on, but they only believe, most of the time you only believe numbers. Like, yeah, I hear you selling me this, but your numbers, no, your blood says this though, so, and it was nice. I think that was one of the first times that I've actually been to the doctor where what I said was reflected in my test results. And so that's a new one for me. And, so it's like, I'm trying, but so a lot of times you're like, well, I'm trying. Yeah, but the trying didn't show up in the blood. So I'm saying, I know I'm being facetious, but that's what showed up. And there was a kidney number. I don't know exactly how I can spell the word. It's CREATI.
Yeah, creatinine. Yeah.
Okay. So for, let's say, I don't know, 8+ years, I know that number, it's supposed to be, there's a range. And I know that the top of the range is 1.0. And for about 8+ years or so, mine had been 1.04. And they was like, oh, well, you don't have to worry about that. I said, yeah, I kind of do, because I have a family member that has, where creatinine is their entire life. And I know that they have, they're on dialysis and all of this. And so I kind of pay attention to that number. And I was like, I don't like that number. I said, how do I get that number down? And the doctor told me 2 things. She said, drink more water and lose weight. And I said, okay. So when I came back, that number went from 1.04 to 0.85. Nice. I was finally in the normal range. And so that's what I'm saying. I mean, numbers that matter to me medically, that are an indicator of better health. If the doctor can recognize and say, yeah, that's better health, then you're making some progress. So for me, that was a big deal. And so I have another checkup at the end of this month. And so I'm hoping that I'm shooting for a particular weight goal, because I have been able to get down. I'm shaving. My body tends to do like this before it goes down. It tends to go like, and then it goes like that. And so I'm kind of in that cycle, but I started doing something in addition as a support to the journal. What I started using also is a monthly calendar. It just shows the day. And what I've started doing is tracking that weight so I can look, because for some reason I started looking at it, and I also started making a weekly goal. And I found that looking at the calendar for me was the easiest way. Looking at a monthly calendar, the entire calendar, was easier for me. For some reason, it kind of helps me process or whatever. So I've just been, and I didn't do that the last time, and I found that very, very helpful. And so, and that's how I know. I said, oh, my body likes to go up, and then before it goes down, it kind of wants to do this. No, and then it finally decides to change. So anyway, I've just found that to be a help. And I've also discovered that this program it's not just the weight. It is, my blood is different. My health has improved in a way that I can prove. I can go these test results right here. My health has improved. And so my sleep is actually better. It's not exactly where I would like for it to be, but just about everything that I was wanting to make better has been made better by continuing, not just starting the program, but continuing with it, being consistent with it.
Really powerful. So, and congratulations on that improved blood work. I mean, it's really nice to see the validation on blood work of the internal changes. And those are only going to improve. I can't see how your blood pressure doesn't get better over time as you continue to work this lifestyle. It's just kind of like how it is.
Yeah, my blood pressure actually has gotten better, but it just was, it was amazing. My focus was, okay, I want to make sure I get off blood pressure medication. I'm not going to do this. but there was other areas that came on, that cholesterol. I had no idea, but I'm telling you, those roll.
It is partly the oats. I mean, the fiber sources that you're getting in the oats, they binds cholesterol. That plus the exercise, plus the hydration. I mean, it's very clear how the mechanisms of how that cholesterol has gotten so much better. But the oats is a big part of that. You're getting so much soluble fiber, like right in the morning to like bind up a lot of that cholesterol. Yeah, awesome.
That's been amazing. I'm just, and that's why that's my go-to. You were saying you need to go to this and a go to that. And initially I would say for the first maybe 2 weeks, I kind of struggled with having that. But after that, just having, preparing things. I get my breakfast ready on the weekend. I just prepare it in advance. I already know my salads and I know what kind of salad. I mean, I've become kind of a little snob about certain salads. And I don't like that kind. I like this. And so, but I know what quantity to buy it in so that I know I eat a huge salad and I have, and I make sure that I get that protein. And I've always been one for you got to have protein, but I just make sure that it has helped me refine how I eat. And I'm more comfortable because I used to can only be comfortable and relaxed if I was eating sweets. And that's the truth. And I had associated, however I had come to that point, relaxation means I'm having something sweet. But now I feel relaxed, which is, the way you feel is kind of intangible. It's really hard to say, but I can say honestly, like for instance, I'm here. I ate today. I ate a little bit later because my schedule was different today. So I ate a little bit later, but I started with the oats today. But I felt better as soon as I started eating. As soon as I ate that, and I began to look forward to it. And it's kind of, it's not like it's sweet. It's actually kind of bland, but I look forward to it. I look forward to meal number one is by far my favorite.
Yeah. And I know that stacks on with your morning devotional time, your water. It's like a whole thing. So it's like every day you're kicking your day off with like goodness. Something you look forward to with some amount of certainty that's also in the direction of your highest values and goals. Like it's like a blessing every morning for like good health, for the path you want to walk. And what is our life other than a string of these days? You win one day, it gives you a certain amount of momentum that you can carry into the next day. And that's really cool to see. And I also think what you said, one other thing is like just the reflective process that you've gone through, paying attention to how your weight fluctuates on a monthly basis, paying attention to how certain foods affect your body. And especially with the bread thing, I think a lot of people can relate to that, like craving bread. But now because you've been so clean and then you introduce these things and you see an effect, I eat this happens, or I eat chocolate and I break out, and you can make a stronger neuroassociation. It breaks that form of craving to a certain extent, right? You become recalibrated to what actually matters. I know there's certain foods for me that I eat them and I have like GI consequences and I don't crave them as much anymore, even though I like the taste of them. It just changes your neuroassociations because you're in a reflective process. And the final thing is like that I love you said is especially during times of hormonal changes around menopause, the more consistent signals we can give our body, the more consistent the body will respond in kind. Like the rhythms of consistency with nutrition, sleep, and exercise has probably led to a lot of your more consistent experiences of hot flashes, of slightly better sleep. Like we're rhythmed machines, biologically speaking. So the more consistency, the body really appreciates that.
Yeah, I remember I read recently, that was one of the things you sent something about sleep. And I devoured that thing about sleep because that has been my biggest challenge. In the program, I would say, I said biggest. Well, let's say consistency follow a close second with sleep. And I read there was a PDF that we could download, and I downloaded it. I keep it on my tablet, and there was a section of it that talks about the indicators of, if you're struggling with sleep. And I had 6 out of the 10. I said, oh my goodness. So I started implementing some of the things, hey, this is how you can improve your sleep. So one of the things that I'm going to do at my doctor visit at the end of this month is I'm going to ask about one of the things you talk about is a supplement called melatonin. And I said, I'm going to ask about that before him because I want to make sure it's not going to, make my blood pressure higher, whatever. So I never just add something in without checking about the blood pressure first. But there was something you said earlier about, the triggers and being consistent. And you were saying like there's certain foods that you can eat where you're going to have a GI, response. And I'm going to tell you, It is probably just for me, and it may sound silly, but one of my favorite desserts is I just love Dairy Queen. I don't work for them or anything. That is my favorite ice cream in the world. I love Dairy Queen. I have not had Dairy Queen since I started this program because ice cream, I discovered as we go, ice cream just does a number on my, and a little bit better response with Dairy Queen. That's the reason why I said, well, maybe after I hit the go, maybe I'll have just a tablespoon of it or something. But that solid ice cream that you buy in the store, whatever it is that makes it just tears my stomach all to pieces. I am not lactose intolerant, but I said, I can't live. I mean, it is painful. Yeah. So I'm not sure why I had to experience that so many times before I realized, you might not, don't eat that, so, but that's what has helped me. For me, it is significant that I can say I have not had ice cream in a period of months. It is significant because I have there's never been any time in my life before this where I would go any appreciable amount of time without ice cream. I love ice cream, but it's been amazing. One thing that I really do that excites me and that I'm very appreciative of is that the foods that I love do not control me anymore, because I was controlled by food before, and I'm not controlled by food anymore. I'm not where I want to be, with respect to my health wise. One day, when I come, hey, I'm going to put it on that Facebook. I'm going to be on there. Hey, I got off my, you're going to hear about it. But I'm just thankful that I can say that I'm no longer controlled by food, because I was before. And sometimes all of that you don't want to admit it. It's embarrassing. Oh my God, I don't want to, I'm an adult. I'm a girl. Why? How can food control? Well, it does. Your habits, you eat things and whatever like that. And so I no longer, I know for sure food is not controlling me, but it definitely was controlling me before. It was definitely controlling my day. There were certain times of the day I knew I was going to have a snack. I was going to have to eat this, that, and the other. And it was very consistent. And that's why I was overweight, and that's why I was struggling. And just, without, trying to exercise it away. And that was the other thing, Doctor, I know that I'm not sure how much time we have, but I did want to say this. And because of my military training, because I was a powerlifter, I was of the mindset that I can exercise everything away, because I don't want to change what I eat. I like what I'm eating. I don't want to change it. I just want to exercise, feel better. And that doesn't exactly work, especially the older you get. And so I had to get away from that. But it was the process, like that first 6 months, that's what helped me clean. It's like it was like it helped me. It was like a wash. Every day you're washing something and some more of the junk from your life that you just stuck in there about eating and being healthy just gets kind of cleaned out. And so I got away from that mindset. No, it's not just exercise. You can't just exercise and eat like a crazy person and feel good. You just can't. And but that was 100% my mindset. If I just exercise harder, which is why I did CrossFit for a while. Oh my God, CrossFit just hurt I did it for a while, but it just, I don't like those Olympic lifts. There's a whole lot about the CrossFit that didn't work for me, but but that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to exercise my way. And you consistently say in this program, you cannot exercise your way out of a bad diet. I think that kind of comes up. It's a continual thing. So anyway, so finally that little light switch went on, and it was like, oh, when I drink water, when I eat right, when I exercise right, and when I sleep right, those 4 things for me, that has been what has been foundation and what has changed. Well, that's what has changed me. It has changed my life at this point. So
nice. What a wonderful conversation, Eve. Thank you for sharing everything that you did. It was beautiful to witness everything that you've done, the trajectory, the new levels of self-awareness you have, and just the great health effects. Like, I wish you an amazing year ahead. 2023, more progress, more great stuff. And like, I feel blessed that we could have this really fun conversation. I get to experience you in person here, and that you get to share your story with so many women.
Well, absolutely fantastic meeting you. And like I said, I just enjoyed just watching your videos and everything. Just the way that you present, just your natural manner of presentation. To me, that was beneficial for me. So I'm just so glad that I found the Fit Mother Project. I don't know how long you've been out there, but I was like, I'm so glad that I found this. And I'm hopefully to the ladies that are out there, just follow his instruction. Don't be like me. Don't try to add modifications. Just follow it and just reap the benefits. So thank you for having me today. I really am. I'm just blessed and thankful to be here.
Thanks so much, Eve.
All right.